now listening to the Insight Fantasy Sports Podcast.
Welcome all and welcome back into the Insight NFL Podcast. Week 14, Monday the 8th of December. We're all but finished here. Our review and recovery, which we like to tackle on a Monday while it's still nice and warm. All but one game to go. We've got the Eagles taking on the Chargers tomorrow, what should be probably a gross game, but we'll have to stay optimistic until that plays out. Mav, how are you feeling? Week 14, all done and dusted. You've cracked into the 500 mark. Seems to be a couple of big scores this week, but what do you think of it so far for week 14?
It was a bit of a mixed bag. At one point, it was looking really good, and then the next minute, it was looking pretty average. So I'm all out for 541. I'm not really too impressed with it. I think it's probably a pass, maybe just. Especially in the last game of the day, if you had Mahomes and Rice, which I did, they sort of let you down along the way, unfortunately. So, yeah, all in all, there's a lot of highs and there's a lot of lows as well. So, we'll go through it a bit later on. But all in all, mate, I think around 540, I think is pretty much just an average, maybe slightly above score. So we'll take it.
Yeah, I haven't seen any monsters as of yet. I've seen around that 590 mark with still the one game to go. But if anybody cracks in that 600, well done all around. Just imagine, Mav, do you still have JJ McCarthy on your bench?
Yeah.
Still going to bet. Just imagine that JJ to Patty Mahomes swing, what that could have done in that last game. Who would have thought that McCarthy would outscore Mahomes this week?
Well, in the end, we're talking about what you do for if you have Drake May, he's on bye, and it turns out subbing out McCarthy was actually the way to go, which is just ludicrous to say now, but it is. I think he scored higher than Mahomes, Lamar, Dak, any of the other QBs that we have mentioned throughout the week. So, yeah, pretty crazy in the end, eh?
Very crazy. McCarthy's putting up points, but Justin Jefferson is doing absolutely nothing, which we hate to see. But we've got a monster of a show to get through tonight with our review and recovery. But let's start off with those dang injuries. This one is probably fitting to kick things off. Daniel Jones, suspected Achilles tear there very early on in that divisional game up against the Jags. You hate to see it. You knew straight away something was up. A no-contact injury. He went down straight away. You could clearly tell he was frustrated, banging his helmet into the ground. The Colts, their playoff run and probably Super Bowl hopes are all but finished with Danny Dimes being out for the year. How do you feel about this one, Mav? You absolutely hate to see it. Danny Dimes is probably going to get paid the most in his career if he played through the year with how strong he's performed for the Colts. But we saw a taste of Riley Leonard, the rookie pick for those guys slotting in. They still have Anthony Richardson there, still dealing with that face fracture. But how do you see the Colts playing out without Danny Dimes for the rest of the year?
Yeah, it's going to be rough, isn't it? I mean, the workload has now shifted to Jonathan Taylor. It was already pretty high, but now they're going to have to rely on him big time. I thought Riley Leonard was actually okay. I've seen some poor QB play this year, but I was actually okay with Riley Leonard, albeit it was only for like a half or so. But Danny Dimes, it is a torn Achilles. It's come out and said that already. It's been confirmed. So unfortunately for him, he was going to become a free agent at the end of the year as well. So they're not sure if he's going to be ready to go for week one. Obviously, you're thinking Achilles would be a 12-month injury, give or take. So that would probably lead him to about mid-season, give or take on timelines. But that's going to suck big time. The Colts looking pretty good, and now that's obviously gone. They went all in on Sauce Gardner. They thought they might have to tilt the Super Bowl, and now they're QB. So I think one man that can save them now, I think, and that's Anthony Richardson. Hopefully he can channel his inner Cam Newton or something like that if he can get healthy anyway. But I don't think Riley Leonard's going to be launching him into the playoffs or anything, or even winning a playoff game, should I say. It's going to be rough, but we'll see how he goes, I suppose.
Anthony Richardson, he could be the key, opening those lanes up for Jonathan Taylor. as a Jonathan Taylor owner, Mav, I really don't know how I feel about this. I think he takes a massive hit. They're just going to stack boxes, whoever the quarterback's going to be there now. Would you be looking to trade him out potentially? Well, we've got our trade talk show Wednesday, but if you're holding JT with this news, you just want to kind of get out while you still can, while his price is still in that $25 million range?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, A-Chain went down today. I'm not sure if he returned in the end, but he went down. That might put us into the next one, I suppose. But A-Chain did go down. He's going to see a lot of work. And if you've traded out CMC for JT, maybe you try and do the opposite the next week and get CMC back in. Because realistically, there's only a few other options that you can really consider. You might already have them. So, all in all, if you want to do that, I can see that. But look, they still have a really solid offensive line. The Colts, they haven't had any injuries there on the front line. So, despite them stacking boxes and whatnot, they might have to get a bit creative offensively and sort of I don't know, try and get a bigger hole for JT to go through. Linebackers might come down. I don't know. It's gonna be hard. I'm not an offensive coordinator. I haven't never chosen to be one, but not even on Madden, I wouldn't be able to work it out. But I'm sure they'll find some schemes to keep Jonathan Taylor relevant for fantasy anyway.
Yeah, it'll be tough. Thoughts to Danny Dimes out there. Another star quarterback, Jaden Daniels. He got injured in the game up against, just absolutely drawing a blank, against the Vikings, who they got shut out against. He re-injured that elbow. He took a hit, fell on that elbow again where he dislocated, didn't return again in the game. He's probably going to miss next week. Could be a chance to miss the remainder of the year, you'd think. There's just no point risking it. Zach Ertz as well in that game, dealing with a knee injury, and it looks to be an ACL tear, which you absolutely hate. And Mav, of course, you threw in there Devon A-Chain for the Dolphins, dealing with a rib injury, but head coach McDaniels comes out and he said that he could be okay. If the game wasn't a blowout, he was probably going to go back in. So wait and see. It looks like he avoided a broken rib there. CeeDee Lamb also dealing with a concussion. That was from that Thursday night football game. And also Roma Dunze dealing with a stress fracture in his foot. Could be a multi-week absence. We know he missed this game this week for the Bears. How do you feel about the Bears and Roma Dunze, Mav? It definitely looks like they've just made a massive shift into being a run-heavy team. Now with Roma Dunze out for multiple weeks, Caleb Williams hasn't been too accurate the last few weeks as well. So how do you kind of feel about them moving forward?
I actually don't mind the Bears. I thought they had a chance to win today. Probably a bit of an inexperienced pop through. That's probably why they lost. But, a QB play, should I say, anyway. The rest of the skill position players and offensive line are pretty experienced as such. But, I actually don't mind the Bears. I thought they had every chance to win that game. The Packers defense sort of lacked a bit in that second half, got a bit gassed. So they had a chance, and unfortunately, the Packers is just the Bears' daddy, I suppose. They just kept beating them every week, or every year, should I say. So, they do face each other in a couple of weeks, I think it is. I think it's week 16 they come again. So, all in all, looking forward to seeing that one again. But I like the Bears, man. If they can get a Dunze back in there and healthy, that'll be a massive, massive boost to their team. But it seems like he's going to be week to week and questionable going into every single game for the remainder of the year, because stress fracture in a foot doesn't just heal in a week.
Yeah, and it sounds like he's been dealing with it for quite a number of weeks already. We can kind of see a dip in his production since, but we just had absolutely no idea what was going on behind the scenes until this point in time. Mav, did you have to start Tyrod Taylor in any of your leagues this week? The quarterback for the New York Jets. Groin injury early on, burned a whole lot of people. Were you a part of that list?
No. Well, I wasn't a part of the Tyrod Taylor side of things. I actually, in one league, I had Roma Dunze and had no other receivers on the bench. So I had to go and get AD Mitchell. So unfortunately, I felt the injury through somebody else. So it was awful. The Jets just cursed, really. So they had no Justin Fields either. He was out injured. So if it's a multi-week injury for Tyrod Taylor, maybe we do see Fields come back in. I think Fields is contracted for another year, but I don't know that guaranteed. They could just get out of that pretty quickly. But yeah, maybe we see Fields back next week, which would be interesting.
We had a little taste of Brady Cook, and it was not a good taste at that. 14 completions, 163 yards, 2 interceptions. The receivers really did nothing as well when they came in, so it definitely hurts the Jets. Really only Breece Hall for those guys moving forward. Geno Smith, another quarterback that went down and did not return into a game, dealing with a shoulder injury. Kenny Pickett, we saw what he could do. We know what he can do. It is gross. Hurts Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty there. Keaton Mitchell for the Ravens. He was dealing with a knee injury in that game. The loss to the Steelers and did not return. And also David Njoku didn't return for the Browns. And might I add, Mav, Shador Sanders. How about him for a? I know we were playing each other in an Insight Creators Championship this week. I did get the win there, even though it's a very pointless win. Shador putting up 33.5 points in traditional fantasy. You definitely can't expect it, but is this a little taste of what's to come for the rest of the year?
Good question. I mean, look, on one end, I mean, Fannin looks like he's like the go-to target for Shador. They've got a genuine connection there. And obviously being a rookie QB, you're going to use your tight end, even despite him being a rookie himself, but that's just a safety blanket. But I like Shador in this game. The Titans are sort of, I know they won the game, but, you know, Shador looked a lot better than what Cam Ward looked, despite winning the game. I mean, Tony Pollard, if he didn't have that long 82-yard or 85 rushing yard touchdown to go with it, whatever it was, long play, whatever it was, they would have lost the game. But yeah, I thought Shador looked really good, really calm, a bit inaccurate, and that's always been his downfall is his inaccuracy. But all in all, man, I suppose he made it work with Judy, that long ball, 60-yard touchdown. Fannin, obviously, as I said before, Fannin is just a monster for him. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do with Shador for the remainder of the year. I think I imagine he'll start, but even moving forward to next year, is he going to be the starter, or do they go to the draft, or do they look through free agency? What do they do? That's going to be key, I reckon.
Yeah, Shador, 4 total touchdowns for him, 360 yards through the air. And Fannin Jr., we saw 8 for 114 and a score on 11 targets. So definitely his number one true option, like you said there. But, Mav, we could probably lead straight into Heroes. That's all the injuries that we have up to so far for this week. Again, we'll keep track and we'll have more of an injury update probably on our final show on that Thursday before we look ahead for week 15. Heroes for the week, Mav. And I got lucky this week. I rolled with CeeDee Lamb, vice captain in that first game of the week. He went down with that concussion, what looked to be lining up to be a monster score. But Josh Allen, I was fortunate enough to roll with him with the captaincy. 75 points. He was a top scorer for us this week. He will actually lose a little bit of money. His break-even was 91, but even still, having Josh Allen, hopefully you've had him for the last few weeks. He's been the number one clear guy in that top 3 that we've kind of been harping on about. And Shador Sanders to loop him in. He had 68 points, which you touched on. And before I throw to you, Matt, Joe Burrow as well in that Josh Allen Cincinnati Bengals game with the Bills. That was a monster, over 70 total points. Joey B had 50 points alone himself in being at the 3rd highest for the quarterbacks this week. How do you feel about Allen and Burrow? Is Burrow a little sneaky guy to move into that top tier with the likes of maybe Mahomes and Lamar kind of dropping out in a sense?
I mean, it'd be a fantastic pod. I mean, I wouldn't imagine many people would have Joe Burrow at this point. So, look, I don't think in week 15 anyone would be looking to make a QB change in terms of SuperCoach. I think you're pretty much locked in, unless injury comes up. I imagine everyone would have your Josh Allen's, your Dax, or your Lamar's and your Mahomes of the world. Outside of that, I can't imagine many others. You can obviously loop in Joe Burrow if you want to make a change, but again, I wouldn't imagine many teams would have trades left, so it'd be hard to get him in. But yeah, I really like him, man. I think he's looking really good. There's no sign of rust at all. He's come out pretty much all full guns blazing, and yeah, really. We wish he came back a few weeks ago. To be honest, he's probably come back 4 or 5 weeks too late for us, but. But yeah, all in all, if you've got trades and you can get him in and you want a super pod, then yeah, he's your guy.
He looks great, but it could be a little bit too out of reach for the Bengals now after losing this one, dropping to 4-9. If they would have gotten to that 5-8, I mean, the Ravens they'd be a win behind them, two wins behind the Steelers. Still time, but a very, very small chance of those guys making the playoffs. Matt Stafford and Sam Darnold also putting up good weeks to round out the top 5, 46 for Stafford and 45 for Darnold. Both of those guys leaning on their true wide receiver ones and producing the goods, which you don't often see. It's normally a bit of a spread, but super consolidated. How did you feel about these two guys this week, Mav? Because we had JSN and PUKA also in our wide receiver heroes for this week.
Yep. Are keeping us with our premium skill positions, are keeping them going. So we'd love to see that for our side of things. But I mean, Sam Darnold's been a good revelation, I suppose. I questioned the move at the start of the year and the payment that they gave him and everything like that. I was like, it seems like it's over, but he's sort of kept everyone a bit quiet. Sam Darnold, I think he's been playing really well, and good on him too. He's got out of the Jets, and that's the cursed franchise, the cursed QBs there. So he's got out of the Jets and hasn't looked back really, has he? He's been balling. So good for him, man. He's had a good couple of years, good resurgence back into the league, and you'd imagine that it's only really up from here, really. So good for him.
As soon as he left the Jets, it was only going to be up from there. They are a stinky organization. A couple of honorable mentions, Mav, a couple of dark horses here. Tyler Shuck putting up 44 points and stealing a win in a divisional matchup against the Buccaneers. I think they were minus 9-point favorites heading into it, or plus 9-point underdogs, rather. I completely butchered that up. But all in all, very surprising. He had a long rushing touchdown. Lamar, a guy that we were hammering last week, and a lot of people were in the comments making sure we knew about it. Putting up 43 points, not a bad week. Plenty more than what Mahomes put up this one, and there was still some points left on that table. I don't know if you saw, Mav, that Isaiah Likely touchdown that was ruled incomplete. In my eyes, maybe I'm probably a bit too close because I really wanted Lamar to go well this week, but he caught it, 3 steps, still had that possession, and then it got knocked out. I don't know. To me, if I was the ref, that would have been a clear one. But how do you feel about Lamar after this week? This is kind of, after 3 down weeks, this is finally him getting back on track, and there could have been more points out there in this one.
Yeah, Lamar, I suppose his wide receivers and tight ends haven't really helped him out over the last few weeks to get him to the point where he's at. But he looks like he's back. Looks like he's healthy somewhat anyway. And he looks fine. So if you did trade him in, I don't think you'd be too upset with it. They've still got a lot to play for in the remainder of the year too. I think they're in the playoff. I think they're leading the division at the moment, or if not a game behind. So a lot in it still for them. So we like to have people or players that are playing for something for the remainder of the year, because that just increases the level of play. So they're gonna have to go big. So yeah, I think they got the Bengals next week from memory. So they have to win that again. So Lamar will have to go big time. So it's fantastic. I think it's fantastic, and hopefully he continues to the ball, because this hasn't been the Lamar that we know of this year. It's just a flash in the pan of what we know. He shows us some sort of glimpses, but all in all, it's not Lamar that we all know. So
yeah, he's still dealing with a few injuries that you can kind of tell in this one, but he is slowly getting back to it. He did rush for 43 yards and a score today, so that was the most that he's done in the last few weeks, no doubt. And a few guys also to throw in here all had 40 points. Dak Prescott, a nice little pod that you threw in there, Mav. You'd be happy with the 40 points. Jordan Love, he's been performing the last couple of weeks. And JJ McCarthy, which is the biggest surprise in a shutout win against the Commanders, 31-0. He only threw the ball 23 times, 16 completions, 163 yards, 3 touchdowns. Also gave you 19 yards on the ground. But how do you feel about this one, Mav? Is this just kind of buy McCarthy more time into next year? I still think that they're probably going to bring in an older vet and someone to compete, but glimmer of hope for JJ McCarthy anyhow.
I suppose I wasn't really too impressed. The Commanders defensively have been awful for the whole year, really. Again today showed. He had 3 touchdowns. So he did what he needed to do. But I mean, Hawkinson, that was a touchdown that he made that play. You know what I mean? Yards after catch and stuff like that. So so 3 tight ends went to 3. 3 tight ends got 3 touchdowns. So Addison's still waiting to get a touchdown. Same with Justin Jefferson. So he seems like he's got no connection with wide receivers, but he's got a somewhat of connection with tight ends. So I don't love it, mate. To be honest with you, I'm with you. I think they replace in the year or start next year through free agency or through the draft or whatever. I don't think he's it. I don't want to commit to him long term. We've seen a year of him already, and you can't say that you can see a long term prospect there. It's pretty gross. But the Commanders this year have been awful too. So a lot to really say about the Commanders and Jaden Daniels and his play and then his injuries and the way they're managing him as well. So all in all, it was pretty gross.
One that he definitely should have put up points in, so it was good to see that. You're right, the Commanders, they've been absolutely battered on defense and they are struggling this year. Still can't believe how can he score that well for SuperCoach, and Justin Jefferson is just very much invisible the last few weeks, which is just get that man some help. Get that man some help there. But that closes out the quarterbacks. Mavs into the running backs, and we had Jahmyr Gibbs with 66 points straight off in the first game this week. Him for you, is he the number 1 running back rest of season? Do you still have CMC ahead of him? Where do you kind of put that pecking order?
No, I think Jahmyr Gibbs is the number 1. Again, we still have Montgomery as well, and I think he had a touchdown in this game as well. I think he had a 15 or 16-yard touchdown in that one. But end of rest of the year, I think he's number 1. Keep in mind they do play the Rams, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, Chicago. If you want to include week 18. So the run home's not exactly easy. It's not like he's got 3 walk-in matchups that he should dominate. But I don't think it really matters who Jahmyr Gibbs comes up against. To be honest, I think he dominates no matter who he plays. He's my number 1 rest of season. He was my vice captain this week and had to take the score, even though I was thinking that Josh Allen against the Bengals could go larger. You don't want to risk it when he scores 66. So safe option to take the 66 and run. But no, there is a few options in there. I think Gibbs is number 1. CMC and JT are still up there for me. I know JT's got the QB change there, but he's still up there for me. So. And then you got A-Chain that's probably lurking around. Josh Jacobs is lurking around too. He was fantastic today, but he's pretty damn close.
I think he is number 1 for me too. I'm going to have to try and fit him in this week. Burnt one of my last 2 remaining trades, has to be done. A couple of running backs in this list that probably will never be in this list ever again. Tony Pollard, 56 points, had a massive 60-plus yard breakaway touchdown. Even though he looked so slow, he didn't really climb those levels in the open field. Blake Corum, 50 points. He looked very good. Him and Corum looking a true split too, Mav. And there was some words from head coach Sean McVay coming out that he's planning to, kind of spell Corum a little bit getting into the playoffs. How do you see this playing out for the remainder of the 4 weeks until we get into the actual NFL playoffs? Like it looked to be working. Corum still did plenty, but Corum just got the better of him today.
I mean, from a team perspective, it's fantastic. You've got 2 running backs that can put plays on and score. I mean, Corum had like a 30 or 40-yard rushing touchdown, and he just burst at the hole and he was gone. It was awesome. So, as a team perspective, it's amazing. But for a fantasy perspective, we sort of don't like that. If you have Corum on your bench and you're sitting there just for insurance, it's fine. If you've got Kyron and Corum, I suppose that's okay too. But if you're just a single Kyron owner, you would be a little bit worried, just a little bit. Despite him already still putting up some decent scores, you'd still be a little bit worried about Kyron Williams for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I hate seeing running backs split touches there. Travis Etienne, 40 points here on this week. He just keeps doing what he's doing. Bashal Tootin, I think, is also dealing with a concussion in that one. So wait and monitor to see if he has the backfield to himself again next week. RJ Harvey, the rookie, finally coming through after the buys, put back-to-back performances together. And a few guys outside of the top 5, Mav, that we need to mention. Devon Achane and Chase Brown, 33 points. You take that. Very solid floors Chase Brown, thanks to the 2 touchdowns that he had in that game, he did absolutely nothing besides that in terms of just base stats. Josh Jacobs, you said, he's back in the winner's circle with 32 points, having a nice score. And Bucky Irving, 30 points as well here. Out of this list, Mav, to close out the running backs, any guys that really stick out to you and, that you think could be more consistent for weeks to come?
I mean, I'm really liking Josh Jacobs the rest of the year too. They're still playing for the number 1 seed. And I personally think he's the offense. I mean, I know Jordan Love's been playing at a reasonable level the last few weeks, but, I thought Josh Jacobs won the game today, that last quarter effort that he had. He made multiple plays in that last quarter where it just carried the Packers over the line, and obviously had the rushing touchdown to go with it too at the end. I believe, I think it was him. But yeah, he's a monster. He's just an absolute monster. Unfortunately, he's just below the top 4 for me, or top 5, top 4. He's sort of around the mark, but he's just a bit off. But I really like Josh Jacobs the rest of the season as well. So he's been reliable for years and years and years now. So he's really showing his true colours now in recent years, and he's having back-to-back solid years.
Tried and true is you can pretty much pencil him in for a touchdown every game, which is going to give you a solid floor week in, week out. We kind of need to look at that too when it comes to these SuperCoach players, like having that floor. You're not going to have these guys that are going to completely kill your weeks, especially Josh Jacobs anyhow is going to do that.
Super consistent.
Very, very consistent. He's the bread and butter of a morning. Wide receivers, Mav, our heroes this week, PUKA NUKE went absolutely ballistic with 64 points. In turn with Stafford being in the top 5 as well, that little correlation. Puka's line this week, 7 for 167 yards and 2 scores on 11 targets. So you absolutely love to see it. Devontae had a down week, which we'll get to into the Heartbreakers later on. But it's great seeing Puka doing what he does best. He completely dominated in this game. They absolutely rolled the Cardinals. I don't even think they really needed him at the back end of the stretch as well. So it probably could have been more if it was a bit of a more back and forth of a game. But how do you feel about Puka? Is this just clearly cemented him on top of Devontae Adams through the rest of the season, just given what he can do any given week?
Yeah, absolutely. I had him, I think it was last week I said that he's got the highest floor out of any, well, especially between him and Adams. I think at any wide receiver in the game, to be honest with you, I think he's got the highest floor, highest ceiling. I really think he does. You don't really get a score of, I'm talking about traditional fantasy, like 4 points, 5 points out of Puka. That's just rare. Usually his bad games about 10 points. That's where Jamar Chase can have a 4 or a 5. He's capable of doing that, but I don't think Puka is, unless he gets added into an injury, which you can't really help. But very much a better fantasy option than Devontae has been, will be for the remainder of the year. I'm going to loop in Michael Wilson in this game conversation. He was the next on our list here as well. But this was a game where the Cardinals got really no one healthy. They're playing their seconds at the moment as their starters. Michael Wilson's been a real revelation for them with 63 points. He's looking like he's got a real connection with Brissett. Man, if you ever brought him in at any point throughout the year for SuperCoach, you'd be laughing because you could probably start him week in, week out. He's had one bad week in 4 games, I think now, and that one bad week was just an average score. You take that from a premium player.
Yeah, Marvin Harrison missed this one again. We can just see Wilson doing his best Puka impersonation when Marv is out. Absolutely monster scores. JSN, another tried and true player here that we mentioned with Sam Darnold. 49 points. Great to see him getting it done. T. Higgins having 48 points as well in that explosion game that was the Bills versus the Bengals. He also dealt with a little concussion as well that we missed in the injuries. Again, he had a concussion last week that he was kind of coming back from. Hate to see it back-to-back. Hopefully no longer timeout for T. Higgins. Christian Watson, another boom player, went ballistic in this game with Jordan Love. 45 points to round out the top 5. And Mav, DK Metcalf, he's finally made it back into this list for what seems like at least 6 or so weeks. 36 points for him. Finally had a couple of big plays go his way with Adam Rogers under center, 7 for 148 on 12 targets. You love seeing those targets come through finally for DK. How do you feel about him? Do you think he can kind of see brighter days ahead with this connection finally hitting with Aaron Rodgers, or is it more of a blip in the radar, this one?
Yeah, I can't really say that I really trust it. I need to see it with my own eyes before I need to see a bit of consistency rather than a 1 week. So anyway, they play the Ravens again. I think it's week 17. So maybe you might launch out DK Metcalf again if you've got him. The SuperCoach, obviously, you probably don't have him. I don't think many people do have him. And if you do have him, you've probably given up on your team already. But yeah, unfortunately, DK, I can't trust at this point in the year.
Can't trust him whatsoever. Zay Flowers, 32 points, another player that you definitely cannot trust. This is the first time that he's been on this list all year, I think. And CeeDee Lamb, 30 points as well, closing out the wide receivers. 30 points in pretty much just a half, which he could have went absolutely nuclear up against the line. So it's a shame, but hopefully he could be lined up to be back this week, given the longer turnaround time with that concussion. Apparently, he's already taking steps through that protocol. So how do you like his chances for next week, Mav?
Well, they're going to need him because they play the Vikings. I mean, I think the Vikings defensively are pretty good, generally speaking. So I might not be I might be, in the minority when I say that, but I think their offense is never on the field, so their defense can be gassed. But they're going to need him. We're going to need him for a SuperCoach as well. I mean, what if he misses next week? Do we trade him out, or do we bench him? It depends what options you have in your bench. For me, for example, I have to bench him for Ted McMillan, and I don't really like to do that. So I don't want to trade him either. So it's a tough conundrum to make. But hopefully he can just get through. It's a Monday night or Sunday night football game, so we have a bit more time. But yeah, one to monitor over the coming days.
I hope big time. I've got a couple of redraft leagues that all have CeeDee Lamb in it, and it would absolutely nuke my chances if he's not there next week. So very optimistic that he can return. Tight ends. Harold Fenton Jr. topped this list for us this week, 42 points. In tandem with Shador's massive game. And I know 42 points is pretty big for a week in, week out, but I feel like, Mav, with the Njoku injury, you can kind of pencil him in for that 20 to 30 any given week. He probably has this ceiling if he does get a touchdown. How do you feel about him rest of season? Does he kind of, with the injuries to Sam Laporta, I know Kincaid's finally working his way back in, but could he kind of get into that top 5 for SuperCoach for the rest of the year in this position?
Good question. I reckon he's definitely top 10. Definitely top 10. But tight ends are very hard to predict as well. So they're pretty volatile with their scores. I mean, very up and down. Not really much consistency week in, week out. We saw McBride, for example, today. Didn't really get going despite the need to throw the ball for the rest of the game. So it's hard to really predict at most in. But I like him. I think if you've got him in your SuperCoach teams, I don't think he's startable. I think he's, obviously bench worthy still, but he's there for insurance if anyone goes down and got no trades or don't want to trade or anything like that. He's just there for insurance. But your traditional fantasy is fantastic. I mean, he's borderline. You start him in your flex or roll out 2 tight ends. You've got a top tight end option, or you know what I mean. So for traditional fantasy, it's fantastic. But for SuperCoach, I think you sit him on the bench for just for insurance reasons, really.
He was good in relief. I had Kittle on the bench for me this week, and you definitely take a little 42 from Fenton Jr. That's exactly what you want. The next 3 guys, very volatile. Again, we probably will not see them in this list again this year. Mike Gesicki, 35 points. Josh Oliver, 30 points. He had a couple of touchdown grabs from J.J. McCarthy. Dawson Knox scoring 28 points up against the Bengals defense, which is on a historic run to be the worst ever against that tight end position. He just keeps fitting that bill in that one there. And Brock Bowers, the other top 3 name that we have here, 25 points, not too bad. Luckily, he got that touchdown while Geno was still in the game. He will make a little bit of cash as well heading into next week with a break even of 18. How do you feel about Brock Bowers, Mav? With that Geno Smith, if he misses the next few weeks, I mean, Aiden O'Connell, I think I'd rather have him slinging it compared to Kenny Pickett because, Pickett is just definitely not it.
Yeah, I'm with you on Aiden O'Connell. We saw the connection last year, like there was a connection. They got chemistry. So if you're a Brock Bowers owner, you definitely want to see that. Brock Bowers, what's their remaining schedule? They got the Eagles next week. Eagles into where is it? Eagles into Texans into Giants. So yeah, it's not really fantastic. Two of those three matchups are quite tough. So they're going to struggle, especially that Texans matchup. God, you might have been bench Bowers in that game.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. That Texans defense, they are just having their way with absolutely anybody, and we saw it again tonight. Travis Kelce, he was in our Heartbreakers. He could not do anything against that Texans defense. Couple of other names to mention in with tight ends. Kincaid coming back from injury, scoring 24 points. You're okay with that? Cole Pitts, Mav, 24 points here. I rolled him out as one of my starts of the week on last week's Thursday show, mainly for the vibes, but I didn't mind him up against the Seahawks. Didn't do too bad. Anything to say on Cole Pitts before we move on?
He was okay. I haven't really got myself to say about Cole Pitts. I usually keep it pretty tight with him, but he's all right. He was okay. I don't really like his outlook for the range of the year still, but he was all right. If anyone holds him for SuperCoach, though, you're in deeper trouble than what a normal person would be. But no, I don't like Kyle Pitts at all.
Definitely better options out there than Kyle Pitts. We did also, this was without Drake London again in this game. We'll have to wait and see if he does come back next week for the Falcons. And Colson Loveland, a lot of managers still have him on roster, 21 points. You don't mind that whatsoever. Kickers, we'll run through these guys quickly. Your boy, Mav, Brandon Aubrey, massive 46 points to kick off the week. That is just phenomenal. Jake Bates in that same game for the Lions, 32 points. And Jason Myers for the Seahawks, putting up 28 points as well. So some massive scores. And in defenses, we'll quickly loop these guys in as well. The Vikings, 36 points after shutting out the Commanders. The Dolphins, 32 points. Very friendly matchup up against the Jets without Tyrod. And your Seahawks, Mav, you've still got those guys. They keep producing back-to-back weeks of pretty good outcomes. How do you feel about these guys for the rest of the year?
Yeah, love them. They got the Colts next week, mate. So that's going to be a juicy matchup for them. And then they've got Seahawks. They've then got the Rams on week 16, so that'll be tough. And then into the Panthers in week 17. So I don't mind that. I don't mind their rest of the season schedule. I think they've been pretty good. And not many people actually have the Seahawks, despite them scoring really well this year. So I've gone a little pod difference in my defense. And so far, it's been okay. Okay. So we'll take it.
You definitely take it from the defense. That position is a nightmare trying to pick week in, week out. You love to see it. Love to see Money Mav getting his dues there with the defense. A couple of guys not getting their dues. Our Heartbreakers, some absolutely devastating scores from some of the top guys this week for SuperCoach. Out the gate, Jaden Daniels, 7 points, of course, dealing with that elbow injury. You hate to see it. And Daniel Jones as well, 2 points, dealing with that Achilles tear. Again, super devastating. Hopefully you've got some trades left handy. If you do have either of those guys, you can quickly trade them out. Baker Mayfield and Cam Ward both having 23 points here. Baker, pretty disappointing given the situation up against the Saints. You would have expected him to perform a lot more. Cam Ward, it's okay. You don't really expect too much from him anyhow. But the biggest name, Mav, on this list that let us down this week, Patrick Mahomes, could not do anything. Probably the worst he's looked in a long time. 3 interceptions, no touchdowns. Added a little bit on the ground with his legs, but in a devastating loss to the Texans in prime time. His final line, 14 completions for 160 yards, 59 yards on the ground. So you like that. Without those points, he would have been absolutely tanked this week. But how do you feel about Mahomes rest of season, Mav? Like, this definitely was the hardest matchup of the year up against those Texans, but they do have the Chargers next week, Titans following that, the Broncos, and then the Raiders. And their playoff hopes well and truly are on the line. They definitely need to win out if they want to be any chance And even with that being said, they still probably might miss the playoffs. So how are you feeling about Mahomes and the Chiefs for the remainder of the year?
Yeah, well, you're right. So they got something to play for. So they have to win 4 games, you'd think, to make it. I think 3 of those games already, looking at them, are very winnable. Well, they're all winnable for the Chiefs. You look at it like the Broncos, that might be the game that they might have to play a bit harder, or play hard, should I say, just in general, because the Broncos defensively are pretty good. But if you look at it at a SuperCoach lens for Mahomes, I think you just have to put it down to the Texans being legitimate defensively. They made some fantastic plays. I think it was Tyquan Thornton had a touchdown. It was a long 50 or 60-yard touchdown where one of the corners, I think it was number 4 from memory. I can't remember his name, but he's an absolute monster. He just punched it out of his hand. It was a fantastic play. He was home. So, but yeah, like I mean, Kelsey didn't help him out either. There was one catch that came out of his hands, and that was an interception. But yeah, the Texans were awesome, weren't they? They just put a lot of pressure on Mahomes up front. He was always running for his life, and then the secondary were just clamping up on everyone too. So we saw some uncharacteristic mistakes from Rice as well. A couple of drops in that game, and just in general, there's a lot of mishaps there for the Chiefs. But yeah, rest of the season schedule, I wouldn't be too worried about Mahomes. I think, as I said before, I think those match up pretty good in general. 3 of the 4, you take that. And I think he'll score pretty well in those 3 matchups. And then you got that Denver game where I think he'll be, depending on how they're going, if they won those first 2 games, we'll definitely know how Paddy's looking by then. But yeah, I wouldn't be too worried. Just put it down to 1 bad game against the Texans, and everyone's having that so far. So.
Yeah, we saw them shut out Josh Allen a couple of weeks ago. He only had 20-odd points as well in that game when they played. It's just a thing of beauty watching that Texans defense. And you're right, Mav. Number 4 was that corner, Kamari Lassiter, an absolute dog. They're just their team all around on defense. It is great to watch, and even better when they are putting Chiefs to the sword on the other end. You love to see that with that one there. And in turn, we can move into wide receivers. Oh, actually, sorry, running back. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself with that Rasheed Rice, Patty Mahomes connection. But running backs, a couple of big guys letting us down. Ashton Genty, 9 points. Could not do anything in that game up against the Broncos, especially with Geno going out injured. Quinshon Judkins was surprising, 17 points. Probably the biggest disappointment, I think, of the week. I thought that was an absolute smash spot in what was a pretty cold game there in Cleveland, but just couldn't really get anything going. Shador was just cooking through the air. The big names here that we have to touch on, Bijan Robinson, 16 points, and Jonathan Taylor with 22 points. How do you feel about these guys, Mav, rest of the year? I think these guys definitely have the biggest question marks. I know we touched on JT with that, Denny Dimes. Definitely going to limit his ceiling. They're going to see so many more stacked boxes up in front whenever JT goes to run. And Bijan, we know that he's dealing with Kirk Cousins and no Drake London on that team. So a lot of question marks. How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, well, that's exactly the same thing, I suppose, Bijan's seeing at the moment, really. A few stacked boxes. They're just making sure that someone else beats them. I mean, Darnell Mooney, for me, has never really been a possession guy. You don't really see Darnell Mooney having 8 or 9 catches for over 100 yards. He's more of the long ball threat. I've never seen him as a possession guy personally. And then Kirk Cousins, obviously, he's well past his use-by date. But, yeah, all in all, who would you be worried about the most? Probably Bijan. If I had to predict, if I had to put something onto it, at least JT still has the offensive line, still solid. He'll still see plenty of work there. So I'm predicting 20+ carries for JT still in any given week, and I still think if he cracks out for a 40 or 50-yard touchdown to go with it, we're saved. But I've got more confidence in JT than I do have Robinson at the moment.
Yeah, I'm the same. The offense as a whole, even without Danny Dimes, is still going to be better than the Falcons, and they're playing for something. Falcons have absolutely nothing to play for. Even their first-round pick next year, that is gone and in the hands of the Rams, which is what an absolute steal that they got done there. Yeah, that's a crime. Derrick Henry and James Cook putting up 20 points this week. Not the worst, but again, you don't love it. It didn't kill your week, but yet you hate seeing.
I mean, James Cook had that. He had that fumble that was, I don't know, questionable, I suppose. But I guess it's the rules. So, if he doesn't have that fumble and converts that into a touchdown, we'd be having a different conversation. It was very close. It was 2 yards away. So, we might be having a hero talk conversation about James McGrath and a heartbreak. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt in that one.
Good things to come for both these running backs, I think, too, with how cold, snowy it is going to be getting out. There's a couple of outside games coming up for those guys. They should be fine. Wide receivers, though, Mav, there's a couple of blaring names here that is, I think, full panic mode, and we could probably go straight off the gate. Emeka Egbuka scoring 5 points. Mike Evans didn't play in this game. Neither did Jalen McMillan. Egbuka has done absolutely nothing the last few weeks. It's been a real shame. He was a darling to start off the year. He was producing the goods. The last 4 weeks, though, including this one, 13, 9, 12, and now 5. Is it just full panic stations for Emeka Egbuka? He lost nearly $1.5 million last week. That's just going to keep rolling on as well as we head into week 15.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a meme the other day. Well, not really, it was today actually, and it was I think it might have been Sleeper that put it up actually. Like a guy in the corner crying, saying he should have traded Egbuka in week 5 when he had the opportunity, because he's done much since. So lucky for us in the SuperCoach lens that Egbuka was gone probably about a month ago, give or take. So we probably got rid of him at the right time. If you held, a brutal hold. But I think that we recommended to trade him at the right time when he was at the top end price. I think it was when he had his injury too. He still played that week, but he hasn't really produced. So all in all, I think we predicted that one pretty well. But yeah, panic stations big time for Egbuka, man. For any sort of fantasy relevancy at all, he hasn't really had much of an opportunity to get going. So maybe he's running out of gas himself, and Baker has obviously slowed down himself as well. So maybe a mixture of both is the problem. Maybe he needs a bit more help at wide receiver. He's seeing the best corner nearly every week at the moment. So, all in all, it's a bit of a learning curve for him at the end of the year. Still, he's still a rookie in the day. So I still think it's a successful year for him.
For sure. I'm optimistic that when Mike Evans comes back in deck, like you touched on, doesn't get that as tough of coverage in these games because, he has not been able to do anything really since Big Mike has left. Rashee Rice, 10 points. We had him looped in with Patty Mahomes. They couldn't do anything in that game. A couple of key drops as well in the death when they needed to keep the drive going. Jamar Chase, 14 points. You can just kind of write this one out to a blip. I think the Bills, their game plan was built around Jamar Chase. They let T. Higgins beat them. They let Mike Gesicki beat them, but just not Chase. Justin Jefferson, Mav, he just keeps getting brought up in this list. 4 points. I was a little optimistic that he might have been able to do anything against the Commanders, just given how woeful their defense is, but it went everywhere else besides Justin Jefferson this week, and I don't think that's going to get any better for the rest of the year.
Well, mate, they got the Cowboys next week. If you can't do it against the Cowboys, you can't do it against anybody. So we'll soon see in that one, prime time on Monday, 12:20 slot. So that is his last opportunity, Justin Jefferson, to get going. And it's not his fault either. It's just the poor QB play from McCarthy. Just hasn't got any chemistry with him at all. I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the year if they keep McCarthy, for example, if Jefferson just requests a trade and tries to get out of there. He looks visibly frustrated, and especially someone of his talent should be seeing at least 5 catches a game minimum. That should be his absolute worst. He should be having 5 catches in a game minimum, and there's not really any sort of greener sort of outlook for him for the rest of the year. I mean, he's got some good matchups still, but you just can't see that changing with obviously the state of the chemistry action with between McCarthy and Jefferson. So it's a shame, real bugger. I've got 3 trades left. I do have Jefferson, and I think I'm gonna have to pull the trigger and get rid of him. Maybe I trade McCarthy to a really cheap option on the bench, and then upgrade McCarthy to maybe Chase or something like that. But he can't keep rolling with him. He just can't do it. So Or do you wait another week? That's the real question. It's a matchup. It's a great matchup. It's a green matchup. We love to see those green matchups. And same with week 16, man. He's got the Giants in week 16. So, you look at that. If he was playing with imagine if you were playing with Joe Burrow, you'd be absolutely licking your lips at those matchups, right? So, yeah, it's a shame. It really is.
It's a real shame. Still 35% owned as well. He's just been absolutely nuking teams. He's lost 8.3 mil on the year. That'll probably tick over to that 10 mil mark once we get into the scoring. Once it unlocks tomorrow afternoon.
I will say, though,
2 catches
if the way he keeps going, he'll be dirt cheap next year.
Oh, yeah. He'll be rock bottom prices. He'll probably slide straight in there. Hopefully they can bring in some quarterback help, though, because JJ McCarthy's not it.
But if they put in Kyler Murray, I mean, I'm not a big Kyler Murray fan, but it's still an upgrade, in my opinion.
For sure. Kyler Murray, add in Jameis Winston just as that little third string backup. If a little fail safe, would love to see 100%. That.
That'd be great.
It's the last 2 wide receivers, Mav, that have let us down. Devontae Adams, 9 points. Without that touchdown any given week, or even multiple touchdowns, which he has been scoring, does not have that base floor. This is kind of just what it is with Devontae Adams being touchdown reliant. George Pickens for you, Mav. I know you're a Cowboys fan. You follow the games closely. A couple of these plays, even without CeeDee Lamb, he just kind of looked like he gave up. Is this like an attitude thing with George Pickens? We're starting to see that shine through. Maybe I'm speculatively thinking, but could it be due to the contract talks not really going anywhere? Talks of him being franchise tagged next year as well. So how do you feel about Pickens for the Cowboys?
I mean, I'm just going to put it down to a one-game thing. I mean, he does have attitude problems. He's always had attitude problems. That's the George Pickens that we all know. Steelers, Cowboys, it's just all the same thing. But he's got to worry about what's in front of him at the moment. That's playing football, not his off-field contract disputes. And getting paid, franchise tag. Yes, he'll get paid a big amount being franchise tagged, but obviously it's not the long-term security. So the players don't really like that. But unfortunately, it is what it is. So he has to leave that to his agent and the Cowboys, and they can work it on and off the field. But he has to worry about what he's doing on the field. So and a lack of effort, and, that sort of stuff does get noticed when we're talking negotiating contracts. So if he proves to himself that he is a number 1 receiver somewhere else, then sure, cool. I didn't see it at the Steelers, and I don't think I'll see it anywhere else, despite him. Depends where he lands, I suppose. But just he has to worry about playing football for now, and I think for the long haul, for the last 3 or 4 weeks, I think he's fine. I think there's enough ball to go around. Obviously, at the Cowboys, obviously Javonte Williams on that slide a bit now, but between Pickens and CD, they can easily carry the load and both score large in any given week.
Hey, if things don't work out for the Cowboys, we'll take him in Buffalo. That's for sure. He'd do super well. Tight ends though, that did not do well this week. Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce bottoming out with 2 points a pair. The GOATs from a couple of years ago, you hate seeing them on this list, but they did absolutely nothing in week 14. Hopefully you're not carrying either of those two. Tyler Warren, Mav, he scored 5 points. Again, no Danny Dimes. Big panic alarms for Tyler Warren. I just don't think he's going to really be able to do anything the remainder of the year. We had him as a trade out when it was around their week 12 buy. Hopefully we got some people to buy in there because he has not really done anything since. But Tyler Warren, is he just kind of done for the year? Do you think he can't really do much more without Danny Dimes under center?
I think so, mate. I think so. And look, I know some GMs out there have kept him for, I suppose, for insurance, just in case someone does go down injured. I don't even think he's playable at the moment, just obviously due to the QB play. Michael Pittman, he was peppered today a bit with Leonard. I don't know if Warren will get that same treatment. Generally speaking, a rookie QB does use a tight end, so maybe that may change along the way. But all in all, I don't think you have any sort of confidence in starting Warren or playing Warren in any given week at the moment.
One guy that you do and will continue to have confidence in week out is Trey McBride. Just a little blip on the radar, 16 points, surprising. Jacoby Brissett threw the ball 44 times, and McBride only ended up with 5 catches. Did have the 9 targets there, but it was a Michael Wilson show. He'll be fine next week. He's still an absolute beast. And Jake Ferguson putting up 16 points as well. He has continued to slide ever since CD has gotten back on deck. And again, that'll just keep on happening with Jake Ferg there. There's too many mouths to feed, and he's the 3rd in the pecking order there. But anything stand out from these guys, Mav, in the tight end heartbreakers for week 14?
Oh, not really any standouts. I mean, especially when we're talking tight ends, it's very up and down, as I said multiple times in a given week. They really do. And McBride was probably the one I was most disappointed with. I think he had the ability to go large, especially with the game script as well. I mean, they were down big, and Michael Wilson was still getting fed well. McBride, actually, he got missed on the touchdown. I think it was early in that fourth quarter. It was wide open. He got overthrown. So if he got hit there, we'd be having a slightly different conversation. But I expected McBride to put up some monster numbers, to be honest.
He'll probably do it next week. We'll wait and see. Wait for the bounce back. Kickers and defenses, we'll loop these guys in quickly. Evan McPherson and Brendan McManus had 8 points apiece. Andrew Zamite for the Browns and Chad Ryland for the Cardinals had 10 points. All in all, there wasn't really any bust kickers. 8-10 points, you kind of take that. It's not a donut. That's you can't expect too much from that position. With defenses, however, there was a couple of donuts in some high rostered teams. The Ravens and the Falcons, 0 points. I know myself, I copped that Ravens donut this week. The Browns putting up 4 points against the Titans was just super surprising. Myles Garrett still had a couple of sacks in that game, but they just let too much get through on the ground. Arizona Cardinals, night and day. Last week they scored well. This week, -8 would have absolutely hurt you. And the Indianapolis Colts also putting up negative points with -4 this week in their loss to the Jags. Kickers and defenses for you, Mav. Not a lot to talk about. Again, it's very hard to predict anything, but probably more so the defenses. Do you see any of these guys really falling out of favor in the final 4 weeks?
Well, I was surprised that Browns only scored 4 points. I mean, despite them being a horrible team over the course of the season in terms of their record as such, they've actually been top 5 or top 6 defense in SuperCoach. They kept the games ugly. They lose the games, but they keep them ugly. They keep them low scoring. They sack QBs. They made forced fumbles. They're actually a really solid defense. Really solid defense. But in this one, that was probably more the blimp in the radar, you could say. So I think next week they got the Bears from memory. I think it is. So is it the Bears next week or was it the Packers? I can't remember. Bears. It's the Bears next week they've got. So there's some ability there, especially the way that Caleb plays, where they could get some sacks and force some fumbles. So that's going to be a danger game for the Bears, I reckon. But outside of that, I fully expected those defenses that you mentioned outside of the Bears to be the Browns to be pretty average this week. So nothing really of any sort of surprise.
That closes out the Heartbreakers for week 14 too. And Mav, we've got our final game tomorrow to close out the week. Philly and the Chargers, both teams 8-4, both well and truly into the playoff hunt. For the Chargers, we've got Herbert after going through his hand injury earlier on this week. He's going to play through. Absolute beast, as his coach likes to call him. How do you see this game playing out? I know the Phillies, they've had some woes on their offense lately. Barkley hasn't really been able to do anything. The offensive line's been banged up. But who do you like to win and who do you like to stand out in terms of SuperCoach?
I mean, it's a big game for both sides. It really is. The Chargers sitting 8-4 at the moment. They're probably not going to win the division, but they're sort of on the cusp of making the playoffs. If they drop any more games, they might slip out slightly because the Texans are not far away. The Colts not far away. You know what I mean? So there's teams sort of trying to run them down a little bit. Chiefs still trying to run them down too. So again, if you can get the Chargers to win, it's going to make the Chiefs' life a lot harder for the rest of the year. And you can say the same thing with the Eagles too. I mean, Eagles are only 2 games ahead, or game and a half again in front of the Cowboys at the moment. So if they drop this game, then it keeps the window just a little bit of ajar for the Cowboys winning the division. I don't think the Cowboys will make it based off any other teams making any blunders. They'll have to win division to make it. So, big game for both teams. No one wants to lose this game, but I think the Eagles will win.
I think you could be right with the Eagles. I'll be definitely going for the Chargers if it means that the Chiefs will have a lesser chance to go in. And your Cowboys, I'd love to see them in the playoffs. I know Dak, he hasn't been too well the last playoffs that he's been in, but this team looks good. You know, CD and Pickens firing. Who do you like for SuperCoach in this one, Mav? I feel like it could be a bit of a slog. I know for the Eagles, I think they're without Jalen Carter, their star defensive tackle for this week. So I could definitely see them just trying to play the Barkley game, getting Tank Bigsby involved, really slowing down the clock and not having their defense go out there as often as what they'd like. And I mean, we might see Marion Hampton back as well this week for the Chargers. So who do you like to kind of top score if you had to take a swing at it?
I like AJ Brown in this matchup. He's been good the last couple of weeks. I think that trend will continue. Or Devonta Smith, either or. I'll work both receivers in there. I think they've both got some pretty good matchups in this one. I can't trust Saquon at the moment. Can't really trust any of the Chargers' offensive weapons at the moment because we don't know what Hampton's going to be like when he returns. It's going to be split backfield with Adele probably early on. We don't know what Herbert's going to be like as well. You know, he came out of surgery a few days ago from his broken hand. It's non-throwing hand, but still it'll make an impact. Still have an impact for him, especially if he gets hit in the hand or gets sacked, and you know that's going to hurt. So we don't know what that's going to look like. We don't really know. We expect him to play. We expect him to sort of be out there for him, but you know we're expecting lower numbers as such probably. So. I think AJ Brown and Devonta Smith 1 and 2. I think they're going to go off this week.
I hope it's not AJ Brown. I'm in one of my leagues trying to clinch a playoff seed, and I need AJ Brown to not score, I think 18, and I'll get in. So it's a tough one. He could have that very very early on and just absolutely put me to bed. So it'll be a fun one. Hopefully it's not a slog to close out what's been a pretty good week. Yeah. Matt, as we close out Week 14, early looks into next week. I mean, looking at trade outs, I've got JT. That'll be the decision I'll be making up. I'm not too sure how I feel about the Danny Dimes inclusion, but at this point of the year, trades are at an absolute premium. Who would you be looking to move out? I know you touched on Justin Jefferson, but you might wait a week. Is there any other names that you'd be looking to get out from your team into Week 15?
Not really. Not really. It's the scenario of bringing back CMC for me is obviously the one. I think he's top 2, top 3 option for the remainder of the year personally. So bringing back CMC into my team will be definitely a focal point. It's just who do I trade out? So I'll see if I can make it work with anyone else. But that'll be it. But trading out, it's a bit of a hard one. I think my team's pretty well balanced. I mean, Jefferson's the one that hurts the most, but outside of that, I think everyone else is pretty solid and locked into my squad. So if I make that CMC decision, I'll see if I can move out James Cook or something like that to make it work. I'm not trading out Gibbs, maybe Bijan, maybe. But yeah, I don't think I'm trading out Gibbs and I'm not trading out JT personally for me. Outside of that, that's probably the two guys I'll be looking to trade out if I bring in CMC. So.
A lot of moves to make. It's going to be a monster Wednesday trade talk show as per usual. We'll definitely be going through the schedule and the nitty gritty out of those top guys and finding the differences that we like for the remainder of the year. I think Lamar might get another mention too. So make sure to cover your ears if you don't want to hear Lamar bringing back in. But that'll pretty much wrap things up. Mav, we've got our Wednesday trade show coming up as per usual. But tomorrow night, our waivers show for Week 15. First week of the playoffs too. So this is going to be do or die. I know we're in a couple of leagues together with our playoffs kicking off. So any early thoughts into the waivers? I know it's going to be a tough one, but trying to balance out the remaining schedule, trying to look a week ahead. If you do have that bye coverage, hopefully you are lucky enough to have that spot. So early look into waivers tomorrow, Mav. How are you feeling about that?
Oh, it's hard to say, mate. It's hard to say. I mean, there was a couple of players that came back today. Jaden Reed came back. He looked okay. I suppose he probably has to be rostered And same with Luther Burden. I reckon if Roma Dunze's week to week, I think Luther Burden would have to be rostered as well. There's potential for him to really blow up in the offense. But yeah, outside of that, I'll have to really go through them with a fine tooth comb to see if there's anything else. We're at the back end of the year now, so it's getting harder and harder to find these guys and the gems in the rough, as we say. But has been a few injuries that have come down, and obviously we'll know in the next sort of 24 hours, sort of the timelines and who replaces. So tune in tomorrow.
Hopefully you kept a few little pennies and fab in your pocket for this time, because it definitely does come in handy this point of the year. But guys, that'll wrap things up tonight for our review and recovery through a SuperCoach lens. We'll be back same time tomorrow to talk waivers for week 15.
Easy. Cheers.